There are tons of ways that we could look at the gospel this evening. It's filled with symbolism and meaning. For our purposes, you don't want to stay too long, and we won't remember too much, so let's just focus on one thought tonight. That is failure. Failure. Now, where do we get this in the gospel? Was Peter a professional fisherman? Thank you. Saturday nights are kind of semi-comatose around here. Never quite sure if all of you have come who are here. Yes, Peter is a fisherman by trade. Well, why didn't he catch any fish? I don't know. Doesn't say, except that they didn't. And they're depressed, they're sad. He failed at his work. And this is his work, by the way. And then this guy shows up and they're not sure. It doesn't say that they recognized him. That's for us. We don't recognize Jesus risen from the dead either. And we're wondering if it ever happened. It is consoling and maybe insightful for us to realize that if you're going to look for the risen Jesus, it's going to not be the way you saw him before he died. He is present now, but you got to look in a different way. All we know is that he says to Peter, put the nets down on the other side. Now, Peter probably said, we did that all day. Thank you. However, Jesus said to do it. And when Jesus said it and he did it, we even know the number of fish he caught. How many? Very good. Now you are awake. Okay, I'm impressed. 153. Now, why 2,000 years later would they tell us it was 153 fish? It's a symbolic number of, and the net didn't break. How about that detail? All of those fish represent the whole world caught up in Jesus' net, which is for everybody. And Peter's job is going to be to feed. Let's shift to sheep now from fish. He's going to catch not fish but people and feed them. How many times do you hear churchgoers say, or who come and go, or they quit church or they switch around, I'm not being fed there. We are all hungry. We are hungry, looking to be fed, not on a superficial level, but that's something that gives meaning and purpose and direction and truth to the core of our being. And if we can't connect with that, we are really cast in a sea of chaos. We're all looking to be fed. But let's go back to the point of the homily, the failure. Jesus does not hold the failure against him, but helps Peter, who is a failure. And that's not the worst failure. They didn't know where to fish. The threefold, do you love me? What did Peter do before the crucifixion? Denied him 3 times. You want to talk about failing to live up to the truth? I don't know him. It's a lie. You want to talk failure? Then live a lie. Not living in the truth. That's a big deal. If we don't live in the truth, who would believe anything we say or do? What does it take to learn to trust another human being? If people are kind of casual with the way they stretch the truth? You know, we all know people like that, and they all know us. We're all in this. Not telling the truth undermines relationships. Peter failed miserably. Everybody who's struggling with failure in life needs to reflect on the role of Peter, who was the ultimate failure before Christ. They all failed, but Peter was at the head of the list and ends up becoming the head of the group. The last shall be first, the first shall be last. So apparently failure does not register on the divine screen as unforgivable. We have a hard time forgiving ourselves and each other for the failures of life. Do we not? And there's a tremendous amount of pressure to succeed, and we want to act like we never fail. Or we want to put on our resumes. Or we want to project an image of ourselves as squeaky clean, perfect. I'm going to make this a short example, but I had to do, I'm not going to Hollywood, but I had to do a photo shoot recently. And I'm not telling you what I did it for, because it's none of your business yet. Now, I had to do a photo and I did an interview, and they wanted a picture, so I went to do the photo shoot. This was big-time stuff. I said, my God, take a picture and let's get out of here. No, put on it was like in the barber shop, painted me up. Let's get all those wrinkles and all of that oldness out of your face. They didn't mess with my hair. I said, if you touch that, they're not going to know who this is up here in this picture. But it was this whole thing of being made up for a picture so that it'll be absolutely perfect. I hope I recognize myself in this picture. But this wearing of and with all due respect to that gender that uses more makeup, let's not go there. However, you can live a life that is highly cosmetic because we don't want to admit what's underneath. Because we're either ashamed or embarrassed or not good enough, and you know the drill. And this becomes a spiritual problem because somehow, if I declare that I'm a failure, there is no hope. And so we lie to act like we're not. We don't want to admit it. And if we can blame others. But think of the failures in life you can't avoid. And sometimes they are beyond our control. Failure, losing your job. However it happens, and there are many reasons, of course, as you know. But the bottom line is, I have failed. What do you do with that? And especially if you're supporting a family. How many job switches do people go through in life today? The failure there, what does that do to us? Failure at relationships. Failure of not living up to what we said we would do. Some of these are things that we take on. There's worse and better and worse failures. Having to make the grade. Having to have all A's. Having to be, how do we get a resume that I'll get into college and I'll get into whatever, and then from there to a job that my resume is so fantastic they can't but accept me. The pressure in this culture to live like that is horrendous. Because somehow the belief is if I don't measure up, I'm lost. That failure may very well be the beginning of our spiritual awareness. It very, very well may be that in the failures of our life, those that we bring on ourselves and those that happen to us that we have, no control over, are not beyond the providence of God. Look how Jesus deals with Peter. He doesn't say, "You idiot, go home. Who else can I pick here?" He stays with them. And the conversion, the transformation in Peter has him in the end give his whole life for Jesus. From a coward to an absolute martyr. There's a wonderful story out this week of is it Father Capon, the priest from the Midwest, who was in the Korean War, the chaplain? and who died in a I guess in a prison or concentration, whatever it was there in Korea, and received the Medal of Honor this week for the soldier who never fired a bullet. And the stories told about this man are something. This man's life was a failure. Now, half a century later, plus, he gets a medal. He may very well be considered for canonization in the church, for sainthood down the line. I think he would be a wonderful example. What we call failure in life, having put himself out totally for others, ends up becoming the great gift. God inspires in us the good that is in us many times through the hardest things we got to go through. We don't know how much capability there is in us to love and go the extra 9 yards until we have to do it. Suffering, as much as we hate it, allows us to see and to go deeper into our souls to say that our love is deeper than we thought it was, or it needs to be. It's not just a superficial thing, it's gut level. That's what we're looking for. That's what we need. And that is the resurrection. When we stop worrying about that we're not good enough, this low self-esteem stuff, some of it is psychological, and, we get beaten around in life, and we could all have a reason to hate ourselves for a lot of different reasons. Some of, it's in the air we breathe. But when it's all said and done before God, failure does not stand in the way of God's commitment to have our company and to share our life forever. That is the good news that helps to pick us up when we are flattened out by this life. That is the resurrection. When we get the message, and it doesn't come in directly from heaven, obviously, it comes in our life together. People who forgive us. People who are willing to walk another mile with us. People who encourage us. People who don't let us wallow in our misery and challenge us are God's agents to resurrect. And when that happens, we're new people. And we need that a lot in this life. And our role is to get this message so that we don't run around thinking that somehow we're second class and somebody else is in the first class before God. And the more we get it, and that's why we come here so regularly, the more this gift is given. That is the gift that you and I take out these doors and are to share that blessing with those whom we meet as we meet them from day to day. What you receive as a gift, you give as a gift, and it all comes back. That's Easter. That's the triumph of love over death and selfishness and suffering and misery and all this other nonsense. We were not made for this. We were not made for Good Friday. Some people's faith ends on Good Friday. We got the cross down. We understand suffering. When is the cross going to give way to Easter? We can breathe freely now because we are saved. We are resurrected with Christ from baptism. And if we fall away from it, we come back to it. There's always hope. And let's keep moving forward. There are no obstacles on the part of God for that to happen in our lives. And every failure is not beyond the providence of God to lead us to a deeper truth and a better life. You got to believe that. Otherwise, it's poor me, I'm under a cloud, and I'm going nowhere. You want to live like that? That's not what faith is about. So as we reflect on this Easter, Jesus is present among us in the resurrection, lifting us up. Like Peter, we got to tune in. And when we do, and as that happens, we are lifted up again, and we can move forward. There is no failure in life that stands in the way of God's desire to lift us up and to be a part of Him and our life together. Let's never lose track of that in our day-to-day life.